The Galactic Union was the pride of the stars. Hundreds of alien civilizations gathered under its banners, each bringing their science, fleets, and wisdom. Their great meeting hall on the shining station of Arcanos was a place where only the EA, most advanced empires, spoke. Towering insectoids debated with sleek avian creatures. Scaled reptilian lords argued with ancient jelly-like beings that had drifted through space for millions of years. On the far end of the hall, at a small table, sat the human delegation. Compared to the other races, they looked plain. 2 men, and 1 woman in simple gray uniforms. No glowing skin, no wings, no telepathic hum. Just humans. Aliens whispered and chuckled every time they looked at them. Primitive species. One feathered diplomat muttered. They barely left their gravity. Well, a century ago, a lizard-like official sneered. They bring old metal ships into space, barely better than mining rigs. The laughter was not hidden. Humanity was the newest member of the Union, and the other races saw them as little more than children. Their ships were slow, their weapons looked ancient, and their numbers were small. Ambassador Marcus Hale of Earth heard the whispers. He sat calmly, hands folded, his face unreadable. Beside him, Commander Elena Ward clenched her jaw, but Marcus gave her a tiny nod. Patience. The council leader, a tall crystalline being known as Chancellor Koro, raised his shimmering arms. The meeting began. Esteemed members of the Union, Koro's voice rang, vibrating through the hall. Our reports are grim. The Vorkon Dominion continues its conquest. 3 more colonies have fallen. Millions enslaved. Their fleet moves toward our borders. The mood grew heavy. Even the most powerful races lowered their heads. The Vorkon were not like other threats. They were brutal, merciless, and impossibly strong. Their warships were mountains of black armor, armed with cannons that could split moons. Entire fleets had tried to stop them, only to be crushed. A reptilian admiral slammed his clawed hand on the table. We must strike them with all our force. A feathered scholar shook her head. Your fleets already tried. The Vorkon burned them. We cannot match their numbers. The debate grew louder. Shouts echoed in the chamber. Some argued for retreat, others for desperate alliances. Finally, Marcus Hale spoke, his voice steady but firm. Earth suggests a different approach. The hall went silent. Dozens of alien eyes turned to him. Then, almost at once, laughter broke out. A different approach? Hissed the reptilian admiral. What do you know of war, human? A tentacled delegate wiggled its limbs in amusement. Yes, what will you do? Throw rocks at their ships? More laughter. Some pounded the table, mocking. To them, humans were a joke. Warriors with old rifles, sailors with rusty hulls. Marcus waited for the laughter to die down. He met their eyes one by one. His voice was calm, but there was steel behind it. Earth has faced enemies stronger than us before. We have survived against impossible odds. Perhaps you should not dismiss us so quickly. The aliens scoffed. You survived only because your planet is a death world, said a scaled noble. Predators, storms, diseases. You are stubborn creatures, yes? But stubbornness will not stop the Vorkon. Again, the hall filled with murmurs and laughter. Marcus said nothing more. He leaned back in his chair, watching. His silence only made the aliens believe more strongly that humans were weak, but behind his calm eyes he remembered the briefings he had read before leaving Earth. He remembered the secret orders. He remembered the fleet that did not exist on Union records, the ships built in hidden docks around Saturn and Mars. He thought of the men and women training in silence, preparing for a war the galaxy thought humanity could never fight. The Union laughed. Humanity listened. Far from the bright halls of Arcanos, the Vorkon fleet moved like a storm through the void. Their ships were black daggers against the stars, each one bristling with weapons. Slave worlds burned in their wake, leaving nothing but ash and silence. Union fleets tried to slow them. Squadrons of avian warbirds darted in, firing lasers that glanced off Vorkon armor. Reptilian dreadnoughts unleashed massive plasma blasts, only to be cut apart by concentrated fire. Even the crystalline fleets, with their energy shields, fell like glass before the relentless assault. The Vorkon did not fear the Union. They saw weakness, they saw prey, and on their command throne, Overlord Zorath of the Vorkon laughed, a sound like grinding stone. Let the galaxy cower. Soon, all will kneel. Back on Arcanos, the council's session ended with no real decision. They argued for hours but found no solution. As the hall emptied, Elena Ward finally spoke in a low voice. They don't believe us. Marcus gave a faint smile. They're not supposed to, not yet. She frowned. You think we should stay silent while the Vorkon slaughter more worlds? His eyes hardened. Orders are clear. We don't reveal anything until the time is right. The fleet is already moving. When the galaxy sees what Earth can do, the laughter will stop. Later that night, in the human quarters of the station, Elena watched the stars through the window. She could see the faint glimmer of distant fleets patrolling the void, alien ships proud, beautiful, and doomed. She remembered the training halls back on Earth where soldiers drilled in silence. She remembered the black hulls of ships that left no trace, their engines whispering like ghosts. She remembered the oath they swore, never underestimate humanity. Elena's hands curled into fists. The galaxy thought humans were weak. The galaxy laughed, but soon the shadows would move. The galaxy slept, but war never rested. In the black silence of deep space, the Vorkon Dominion pushed forward, their fleets spreading like a plague. Colony after colony fell under their rule. The Galactic Union tried to resist, but their fleets were too predictable, too slow. The Vorkon crushed them one by one. On Arcanos Station, the Union Council argued endlessly. They made plans that never worked, gave speeches that meant nothing, and promised strength they did not have. Humans listened quietly. Ambassador Marcus Hale stayed calm through the debates, but inside he knew the truth. The Union fleets were not enough. The only chance lay with Earth's secret project, one that even most humans did not know about. Far away, beyond the edge of Union space, a fleet moved in the shadows. These were not the heavy ships the aliens mocked. These were the Phantom-class stealth destroyers designed in hidden shipyards around Saturn and Mars. Their hulls were painted with light-absorbing material. Their engines released almost no trace. They could glide through space like ghosts, unseen by most sensors. At the heart of the fleet was the flagship, USS Revenant. Inside, Captain Adrian Cole stood on the command deck, his eyes locked on the holographic map. He was tall, with sharp features and a voice that carried quiet authority. Around him, the crew worked in silence. No one shouted. No alarms rang. On a Phantom-class ship, silence was power. Status report, Cole said calmly. Engines. At full shadow output. Cloak field stable, replied Lieutenant Harris. We are still invisible to Vorkon scanners, added Chief Sensor Officer Kira Dallin. Cole gave a short nod. Good. Stay dark. Stay ready. The Revenant and her sister ships drifted between stars, hidden in the void. Their mission was clear: observe, track, and wait for the moment to strike. The Vorkon moved without fear. A task force of 15 warships advanced toward a mid-sized Union world named Salon Prime. It was a rich planet with vast oceans and cities built on shining islands. Millions of civilians lived there, and only a small alien defense fleet stood. Guard on Arcanos, the council debated again. The Union admirals prepared for a hopeless defense. But humanity already knew. From the dark edges of the system, the Phantom fleet watched. The Revenant floated like a shadow among the stars, its crew silent, its weapons armed. Vorkon fleet on approach vector, Kira reported softly. Estimated time to orbit, 8 hours. Cole's jaw tightened. And the Union defenses? 7. Cruisers, 20 fighters, they won't last 10 minutes. Silence filled the command deck. Everyone knew what that meant. The Vorkon would slaughter millions. Finally, Cole spoke. Signal the fleet. Prepare for engagement. Ghost protocol. Every crew member straightened. Ghost protocol meant one thing: strike from the dark, leave no trace, and vanish before the enemy could react. Hours later, the battle began. Vorkon warships emerged from warp, black monsters against the stars, their weapons powered up, glowing, with crimson energy. The small Union fleet moved to intercept, but the outcome was certain. The Vorkon opened fire. Plasma cannons roared, and in moments, half the Union cruisers were gone. Fighters scattered like sparks in a storm, hunted down one by one. The citizens of Ceylon Prime watched the skies in horror, knowing their defenders were being destroyed. But then, something strange happened. One of the Vorkon cruisers exploded. No shot had been fired at it, no ship was near. It simply tore apart, flames scattering across the void. Confusion filled the Vorkon ranks. What was that? Their commander growled. Before anyone could answer, another warship erupted in fire. Then another. Invisible hunters moved through. The fleet. Missiles launched from nowhere, striking engines and reactors with surgical precision. Vorkon cannons spun wildly, firing into empty space, hitting nothing. The Revenant slid silently between two battleships unseen. Its torpedo tubes opened. With a low hum, two warheads drifted forward before igniting. A heartbeat later, both Vorkon ships vanished in twin fireballs. Targets eliminated. Harris whispered. "Maintain stealth," Cole ordered. "Do not let them find us." Across the battlefield, Phantom-class destroyers danced like shadows. They hit weak points with perfect accuracy. They never stayed in one place long enough to be detected. Every shot counted. Every strike was lethal. The Vorkon roared in frustration. Their massive guns fired into the dark, but the ghosts were already gone. For the first time, the unstoppable Vorkon knew fear. On Arcano Station, the Union Council watched the battle feed. Alien eyes widened in disbelief as Vorkon warships died without explanation. "What is happening?" Chancellor Koro gasped. "They are being destroyed," whispered a feathered diplomat. "But by what? I see no ships." Panic spread through the chamber. Some thought it was a new superweapon. Others whispered of ancient gods. No one guessed the truth. Marcus Hale sat silently at the human table, his hands folded as always. He did not smile. He did not gloat. He only watched, as the laughter of the aliens faded into stunned silence. Back in space, the last Vorkon warship tried to flee. It turned hard, engines burning bright, but the shadows followed. The Revenant emerged just long enough to fire one last salvo. The Vorkon ship broke apart, its wreckage spinning into the void. Silence returned to the battlefield. The people of Ceylon Prime looked up and saw victory where there should have been death. Their defense fleet was gone, but the enemy was destroyed. Whispers spread across the planet. Whispers of unseen saviors. Captain Cole stood at the command deck of the Revenant. He looked at the fading flames of the battle and gave a single order. "Signal the fleet. Ghosts vanish." One by one, the phantom ships slipped away into the void, leaving no trace they had ever been there. On Arcanos, chaos filled the council chamber. The Union leaders shouted over one another, "Impossible! No weapon could do that! Who saved them? Who destroyed the Vorkon?" Finally, all eyes turned to the human table. Marcus Hale rose slowly, his face calm. "Perhaps the Union is not as helpless as it believes," he said softly, but he offered no further explanation. The aliens stared at him in silence. For the first time, there was no laughter. The Vorkon Dominion was not used to losing. Their empire stretched across hundreds of systems, their fleets unmatched in size and power. For centuries, they had crushed every enemy that dared to stand against them. But now, one of their task forces had been destroyed. Not by the Galactic Union fleets, not by any weapon they knew. Destroyed by shadows. On the war throne of the Vorkon flagship Oblivion, Overlord Zorath slammed his claws against the armrests. His burning eyes glowed red as his generals knelt before him. "Explain," he roared. His voice shook the chamber. "Overlord, the fleet at Ceylon Prime." "It was destroyed," a general stammered. Reports say they never saw the attackers. Never saw them? Zorath's voice was cold. How do you fight an enemy you cannot see? The general bowed his head, trembling. We are searching, my lord. Perhaps a Union superweapon, perhaps... Silence, Zorath snapped. The Union has no such power. They are weak, cowards. Someone else hides in the shadows, and I will find them. While the Vorkon seethed, the Galactic Union buzzed with confusion. News of the impossible battle spread across every world. Civilians whispered about invisible fleets. Soldiers prayed to forgotten gods. Scholars searched ancient records hoping to explain the mystery, but none had answers. On Arcano Station, the Union Council demanded explanations. This is unacceptable, cried the reptilian admiral, his tail lashing. A fleet of our enemies was destroyed, yet no one knows how. We must uncover this new power at once. Perhaps it is a lost ancient race, muttered a feathered diplomat, or some hidden weapon of the Vorkon themselves, another guessed. The chamber filled with noise until Chancellor Koro raised his crystalline arms. Enough. Whoever holds this power must reveal themselves to the Union. We cannot fight an enemy we do not understand. All eyes turned to Marcus Hale, the human ambassador. He rose slowly, adjusting his plain gray uniform. His voice was steady. Perhaps, Chancellor, instead of fearing the unknown, you should be grateful. The aliens glared. Grateful? The reptilian admiral spat. Grateful to a ghost that refuses to show itself. Marcus's calm eyes did not waver. Salon Prime still stands. Its people live. Does that not matter? The council chamber went silent. Marcus sat again, his hands folded. He would say no more. Humanity's secret remained hidden. Meanwhile, far from Arcanos, the Phantom Fleet stalked once more. Inside the USS Revenant, Captain Adrian Cole studied the holographic map. The Vorkon had reinforced their fleets, doubling patrols across nearby systems. They were hunting for the ghosts. Vorkon fleet sighted near the Altheris Belt, reported Lieutenant Harris. 20 capital ships, escort fighters in the thousands. Cole's face remained calm. They want us to attack, they want to bait us out. Orders, Captain? Kira asked, her hands resting on the sensor controls. Cole thought for a moment. His voice, when it came, was cold and sharp. Signal the fleet, we take the bait. Gasps filled the command deck, everyone knew the risk. 20 warships was a force large enough to crush most Union sectors. But Cole's eyes were steady. He trusted his ships. He trusted the shadows. The Altheris Belt was a field of broken asteroids, floating like jagged knives around a dying star. The Vorkon fleet moved slowly through it, their black hulls glowing with crimson engines. Inside their command ship, the Vorkon admiral sneered. Come out, ghosts. Let us see your trick. But the ghosts were already there. The Phantom Fleet drifted silently among the rocks, invisible to scanners. They waited, engines on low hum, weapons locked. Cole stood on the Revenant's bridge. His voice was calm. Begin. The first strike came without warning. A Vorkon battleship shuddered as its engines exploded, ripped apart by a torpedo fired from nowhere. The explosion lit up the asteroid field. Contact! We are under attack! Vorkon voices roared through comms, but nothing appeared on their sensors. Then another battleship detonated, its reactor pierced by precision fire. The Vorkon panicked, firing blindly into the asteroids. Plasma blasts ripped apart rocks, but they hit nothing. The ghosts were already gone, sliding through the dark like shadows. Inside the Revenant, Kira whispered, "Target locked." "Fire," Cole ordered. A single railgun slug ripped through a Vorkon cruiser, punching clean through its armored hull. The ship split apart, fire spilling into the void. 3 down, Harris reported softly. The battle turned into chaos. Phantom destroyers struck and vanished. Missiles drifted silently, then ignited, slamming into engines and bridges. Fighters scrambled, but without targets, they flew blind, colliding with each other in panic. The Vorkon admiral bellowed, "Find them! Find them!" But no answer came. In less than 30 minutes, Half the fleet was gone. The rest tried to flee, engines burning at full power. Cole gave a final order. Cut off their retreat. The phantom fleet closed in, silent, merciless. One by one, the Vorkon ships vanished in fire. When the last ship was gone, silence returned to the asteroid belt. Only drifting wreckage remained. The Revenant and her sisters turned away, engines fading to black. Ghosts do not stay where the dead lie. On Arkanos, the Union received the battle report. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Once more, the Vorkon lost 20 warships, whispered Chancellor Koro. His crystalline body flickered with disbelief. Destroyed, without a trace, the reptilian admiral's tail lashed in anger. This is madness. Whoever these attackers are, they must reveal themselves. We cannot fight beside shadows we do not control. Again, eyes turned to Marcus. Hale, the human ambassador, stood, his expression calm as always. Perhaps, Admiral, he said softly. Control is not what you need. Perhaps what you need is survival. The chamber erupted with shouts, but Marcus sat once more silent. This time, however, a new emotion stirred among the aliens. Not laughter, not just confusion, but fear. In the darkness of his throne room, Overlord Zorath listened to the reports, his claws dug deep grooves into the metal. Twice, he growled. Twice my fleets are slaughtered, and still no enemy shows their face. His generals trembled. None dared to speak. Finally, Zorath rose from his throne, his shadow filling the chamber. Then we will burn every world until the ghosts reveal themselves. We will tear the galaxy apart if we must, and when I find them, his eyes blazed like fire, I will break them. Back on the Revenant, Captain Cole stood alone in his quarters, staring at the stars. His crew celebrated quietly, proud of their victories. But Cole's face remained stern. He knew the Vorkon would not stop. They would come harder, with more ships, more rage. This was only the beginning. The Galactic Union was no longer laughing. For weeks, the mysterious ghost fleet had struck the Vorkon again and again. Entire task forces had been destroyed, yet no one ever saw the attackers. Union leaders whispered in secret chambers. Citizens spread rumors across the stars. Some said it was an ancient machine race awakened from slumber. Others claimed it was a weapon of the gods. But the truth sat quietly among them all along. The humans. Ambassador Marcus Hale kept his calm smile as every alien delegation demanded answers, but now silence could no longer hold. The galaxy was watching. The Vorkon were raging, and the Union was desperate. The council chamber on Arkanos Station glowed with tension. Crystalline lights flickered across the high ceiling as delegates shouted over one another. The Vorkon are gathering their largest fleet yet, a reptilian warlord barked. They will strike the core worlds next. They must be stopped, cried a feathered scholar. But how? Our fleets cannot resist them. Then who fights for us? Demanded a scaled noble. Who protects us from this terror? Every eye turned to the human delegation. Marcus Hale rose slowly from his chair. His gray uniform was plain compared to the shining robes and jeweled armor of the other delegates. Yet in the silence that followed, he commanded more attention than all of them. You asked who protects you, he said softly. You asked who fights the Vorkon when all of you cannot. He paused, letting the silence grow heavy. It is us. Humanity. Gasps filled the chamber. Murmurs rose like waves. The reptilian admiral slammed his claws against the table. Lies. Humans do not possess such power. Your ships are weak. Your fleet's pathetic. How dare you claim this? Marcus's eyes sharpened. You all mocked us when we arrived here. You laughed at our ships. You dismissed our weapons. But we have been preparing for longer than you know. The crystalline Chancellor Koro leaned forward, his glowing body trembling with shock. Explain, now. Marcus nodded to Commander Elena Ward, who stood beside him. She tapped a small device on the table. The chamber darkened. A holographic display appeared above them, showing the stars and then ships. Not the bulky freighters the Union had seen before, not the heavy cruisers mocked as primitive. These ships were sleek, black, shaped like daggers. They radiated silence even in the image. Their hulls swallowed light. Their engines gave no flare. The Phantom-class destroyers, aliens gasped in disbelief. These ships, the feathered scholar whispered. We never detected them. Marcus's voice carried across the chamber. Because you were never meant to. Humanity learned long ago that strength is not always measured by size or numbers. On Earth, we fought wars not with open battle, but with shadows, with patience, with precision. We learned to strike unseen, to win before the enemy even knew we were there. The reptilian admiral shook his head violently. Impossible. No, technology can hide from our scanners. Marcus's expression did not change. Yours perhaps, not ours. Another hologram appeared. The battle at Ceylon Prime. Vorkon ships exploding one after another with no attacker visible. Then the battle at the Altheris Belt, fleets torn apart in minutes. The aliens stared in awe and fear. Elena Ward stepped forward. Her voice was colder, sharper. You laughed at us. You called us primitives. But while you built bigger ships and brighter guns, we built something else. We built silence. We built shadows. We built the weapon you never saw coming. The room was dead silent. Not a whisper, not a laugh. Only fear. Far away, the Vorkon Dominion prepared its revenge. In a massive dock above their capital world, the greatest fleet ever assembled gathered. Hundreds of warships, each one a black mountain of armor and firepower. Their weapons glowed crimson. Their engines roared like thunder. Overlord Zorath stood at the center of his command bridge, his eyes burning. The ghosts think they can hide, he growled. They think they can shame the Dominion. But we will crush them. We will burn the Union to ashes until these cowards show their faces. His generals bowed. Where shall we strike, Overlord? Zorath's claw pointed at the star map. Here. Arcanos, the heart of their Union. We will burn their council and all their leaders, and then the ghosts will come to us. On Arcanos Station, alarms blared, reports poured in, Vorkon fleets on the move, heading straight for the Union capital. Panic spread through the council. Delegates shouted in terror. Some called for evacuation. Others demanded immediate surrender. Marcus Hale stood tall. Stay where you are, he ordered firmly. There will be no surrender. The reptilian admiral sneered. And what will you do, human, stand in their path with your small fleet? Marcus's calm eyes turned sharp. Not stand. Hunt. In orbit above Arcanos, ships gathered for battle. Union fleets formed lines preparing for what they thought would be their last stand. Citizens on nearby worlds prayed. Soldiers loaded their weapons, knowing most would not survive. And then, they appeared. The Phantom Fleet. Dozens of sleek, black destroyers emerged from shadow, their hulls swallowing the light of the stars. They moved in perfect silence, forming a formation unlike any other fleet. Union soldiers stared in shock. Those are human ships? Alien officers gaped. Impossible. How did we never see them before? The humans ignored the questions. They moved into position, ready for the coming storm. On the USS Revenant, Captain Adrian Cole watched the displays as the Vorkon fleet approached like a tidal wave. Hundreds of warships, their power unmatched. His voice was calm, steady, unshaken. Signal. The fleet, he ordered. It's time the galaxy sees what we can do. The Vorkon armada burst into the system, filling the void with crimson light. Their weapons charged, their cannons roared. They expected an easy kill, but this time, the shadows did not stay. Hidden, the Phantom Fleet revealed itself fully, black daggers gliding into view, their engines lit with a faint blue glow as they broke their silence. For the first time, the galaxy saw humanity's secret weapon with its own eyes. The Vorkon admiral sneered. So, these are the ghosts. He raised his claw. Destroy them. The battle began. Vorkon cannons unleashed waves of plasma, scorching space. Union fleets fired desperately, barely holding the line. But the Phantom Fleet did not fight like anyone else. They moved in silence, weaving through the storm. Their weapons struck with surgical precision, engines, reactors, bridges. Each shot was a kill. The Revenant danced between two massive dreadnoughts, releasing torpedoes at point blank. Both warships exploded, torn apart in fire. On the council chamber's viewing screens, aliens watched with wide eyes. Their ships, they move like shadows. They're outnumbered 100-1, but they're winning. Marcus Hale stood with his hands folded, his calm smile finally breaking into something sharper. Now, he whispered. The laughter ends. The battle raged on. Vorkon ships burned one after another. The Phantom fleet struck with precision. Never wasting a shot, never missing. Union fleets, inspired, pushed harder, following in their wake. But the Vorkon still had numbers. For every ship destroyed, more poured into the fight. The sky above Arcanos was a storm of fire. On the Revenant, alarms rang. Hull breaches, energy, drains, damage mounting. But Captain Cole never faltered. We hold the line, he ordered. We show them what humanity is. And across the battlefield, the ghosts kept striking, their presence finally known, their power undeniable. The galaxy watched in awe. The galaxy watched in fear. Humanity had revealed itself. The shadows were no longer secret. The sky above Arcanos station burned red. The Vorkon armada had arrived in full force, a black tide of warships stretching across the stars. Their cannons glowed like molten fire, engines roaring, filling the void with sound and light. The two Galactic Union fleets scrambled to form lines, but their commanders knew the truth. Alone, they would not survive. Too many ships, too much firepower, too little time. Humanity, however, had changed the rules. The Phantom fleet hovered above the Union capital. Hundreds of sleek black ships, each a dagger in space, ready to strike. Their stealth cloaks had been lifted for the first time. Now, the galaxy could see what humans had been hiding all along. On the bridge of the USS Revenant, Captain Adrian Cole stood with his officers. The Vorkon fleet's numbers dwarfed them, but he showed no fear. His calm presence steadied every crew member. Today, he said quietly, we show them why humanity is never to be underestimated. Lieutenant Harris looked at him, eyes wide. Sir, they outnumber us 50-1. Cole nodded. Then we fight smarter, hit harder, and vanish when necessary. Ghosts do not die, Harris. They strike and disappear. Remember that. Chief Sensor Officer Kira Dalen tapped her console. Vorkon command ships detected. They are coordinating fire. We have to break their chain first. Cole gave a short nod. Exactly. Engage. The first strike came in silence. Phantom-class destroyers darted between the massive Vorkon, dreadnoughts unseen. Missiles drifted silently before erupting in fire, tearing engines apart. Railgun slugs pierced reactor cores, detonating warships from inside. Each explosion left the enemy fleet in chaos, unable to respond effectively. Union fleets, inspired by the humans, advanced behind the shadows. Their weapons had been weak before, but now, backed by humanity's precision strikes, they found new courage. On the Vorkon flagship Oblivion, Admiral Zorath roared, "Who are these humans? How do they strike without being seen?" Generals trembled, unable to answer. Their fleet was being shattered, ship, by a force they had never imagined. On the ground of Arcanos Station, aliens watched the holographic battlefeed. Every screen showed the destruction. Every eye widened in disbelief. "They move like shadow," muttered a reptilian commander. "They are outnumbered, but winning," whispered a crystalline diplomat. Marcus Hale stood tall at the council chamber, his hands folded. He did not shout, did not order. The humans had prepared for this moment. The galaxy's laughter was gone. Only awe and fear remained. Commander Elena Ward entered beside him. "The Vorkon will not stop," she said softly. Marcus shook his head. "They will not. But neither will we." In space, the Vorkon tried to regroup. Their massive command, ships were still operational, their superweapons ready. Zorath's eyes blazed. "Destroy the humans. crush their fleet, burn Arcanos to ashes if necessary. But the ghosts were already there. The phantom fleet struck again. Ships emerged from behind asteroids, from the shadow of moons, and from the dark void between stars. Vorkan warships exploded before they could fire, their bridges torn apart. Panic spread like fire. Fighters collided in confusion. Dreadnoughts drifted helpless, engines dead. Captain Cole's voice remained calm. "Target their command. Focus fire. 1 strike, 1 kill." The Revenant fired torpedoes with perfect precision. Vorkan flagship Oblivion shuddered as hull after hull was breached. Lights flickered. Alarms screamed. Zorath roared in fury. The battle moved into the orbit of Arcanos itself. The Vorkan intended to destroy the station and the council, but humanity anticipated it. Phantom destroyers cut through the enemy lines, intercepting massive cannons and missiles. Each strike was precise, each movement calculated. Union fleets advanced, shields raised, firing alongside humanity. Alien soldiers who had once mocked, humans now followed them with hope. Elena Ward watched a Vorkan supercarrier explode, the fire reflected in her eyes. "We're doing it," she whispered. Cole's gaze was steady. "This is just the beginning. Keep moving. Keep striking. Do not let them breathe." Over the next hours, the tide turned completely. Vorkan ships fell in dozens. Command lines collapsed as their leaders struggled to communicate. The once mighty fleet became a scattered mass, running from the shadows they could not see. The council floor's alien delegates watched in awe. No one spoke. The humans had not only revealed themselves, they had dominated. The species they mocked as weak, primitive, and helpless had shattered the terror that even the strongest feared. Chancellor Koro's voice trembled. "Humans, you have saved us. You are stronger than anything we imagined." Marcus Hale smiled faintly. "We never wanted glory. We wanted survival, and the galaxy needed a lesson. Never underestimate humanity." On the Vorkan flagship, Zorath's rage reached its peak. His warships were in ruins. His fleet had lost over half its strength in mere hours. The ghosts he sought were everywhere, yet nowhere. He bellowed, "This is not over. The humans will pay." But deep down, even the Overlord knew the truth. He had fought civilizations that were older and more advanced than humans, but never one like this. They were cunning, ruthless, and precise. They fought with patience and intelligence, and most terrifying of all, they were fearless. As the battle ended, the Phantom Fleet regrouped. Silent once more, they hovered above the shattered Vorkan forces. Smoke and fire drifted in the void. Union ships repaired, citizens cheered, and the galaxy finally understood what had been hidden for so long. The laughter had stopped. Captain Cole looked at the stars, then at his crew. "Well done," he said quietly. "The galaxy knows now. Humanity does not hide. Humanity survives. Humanity wins." Elena Ward placed a hand on his shoulder. "And yet, the war is not over. The Vorkan will return." Cole nodded. "Then we will be ready. We always are." On Arcanos, Marcus Hale addressed the council. "Let this day be remembered. The galaxy laughed at humans, and today, the laughter ended. Humanity stands, not as a weak newcomer, but as a force that can shape the stars. Let all who doubt us take heed. Never underestimate what it means to be human." Across the galaxy, the news spread. Systems that once feared the Vorkan began to hope. Other races, inspired by humans, began to rethink strategy and tactics. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget.